What is up guys, and welcome to my latest video here on SP Vids. And in today's video, as you can see, I have the Sonicware Lofi-12 XT on the table, and what I'd like to do today is show you some very basic things which I think are pretty useful for beginner users of this device to know. Now obviously I've only had this a few days and I've already picked up these little tips, and I immediately wanted to share them because I've found them very useful and hopefully you guys will too. And just before we start guys, don't forget to check out all the links in the description below. There's various ways you can support what I do here, uploading these videos and tutorials. I've got beat packs and merchandise on spvids.com. There's Amazon affiliate links, membership, all different kinds of things. So if you check out the links in the description, I would really appreciate that. Without that support, I basically wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing here. So that would be really great if you could check those out. Okay, so let's get on with the first point, and that is that this dial here, the transparent dial, flashes when you are playing a pattern, and I'll just demonstrate that quickly. And personally, for me, that is very distracting, quite annoying, and also I have quite sensitive eyes to things like that. It can trigger migraines for me, so I don't like flashing things like that happening in front of me while I'm trying to make beats. So luckily you can turn this off, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really simple. So we press and hold the function button, and we press the play button, which you can see will get us to system. So function and play, and we're presented with this menu. We need to go to clock. As you can see here, it's already highlighted for me. You can move up and down using the D-pad on the left hand side if you need to. So we go to clock and press OK. And you can see here we have a few options, and option B is TMP LED, so tempo LED, and that's currently set to on. So we're going to change that to off by using the B dial there. You can see now that that's set to off. We'll press clear to jump out of these menus. And let's press play on this pattern again now. And as you can see, that is no longer flashing. Very good news for me, and maybe some of you out there feel the same as me, so that'll be useful to you too. Okay, my next tip is switching between tracks without triggering the sound. So you can see along the bottom here, we've got tracks 1 to 8, and basically the way that this device works is you have a sound on each track. So track 1 is my kick, track 2 is my snare, 3 hi-hat, and then I think I've got 4 as my chops, or something along those lines. So when you switch between them, I'm hearing the sound that is assigned to that track. And when you're recording on the fly, and there's a few other instances as well, sometimes you don't want that to trigger the sound when you're changing between tracks. So luckily, again, there's a very easy shortcut to be able to do that. All you have to do is, when you're changing between tracks, is hold the function button at the same time. So if I go ahead and hold function and then press track 1, you can see that the screen's changed there to my bass drum, but there was no sound. And again, if I go to my snare, you can see there we've changed the snare, but it didn't trigger the sound, my hi-hat, etc, etc. If I don't press the function button, you can hear we get the sound. So that can be useful in a number of different situations. It's a really easy shortcut, but it's quite handy, so hopefully you find that one useful too. Okay, my third tip is renaming patterns. Now, with any sequencer or device where you're making patterns and sequences, it can very easily get out of control which sort of patterns you're on, which pattern you're editing, etc. It can get messy very easily. You can rename patterns on this, which is really good. So what I'm going to show you is basically, if you press the PTM button, the pattern button, which you can just see up here underneath the screen, if we press that, you can see we've got all our pattern slots listed here. Now I've already changed my one, the pattern which I've been showing you in this video so far, and I've renamed that to main loop. So all we have to do is navigate again with the D-pad. I'm going to go back up to main loop, and we're going to press menu, and you can see that basically it's pretty much the only option other than one other option, rename main loop. So we're going to press OK, and now we'll get presented with a QWERTY keyboard, and we can use the D-pad to navigate around this. I'm not going to do any editing in this one because this is what I want it to be called. So you can choose numbers, You can choose some symbols. We've got the full keyboard obviously, and then there's other commands that you can use as well. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of the MPC, this area, but a bit easier to navigate. So we've got loads of options there that we can do to rename them. I'm just going to go ahead and press back because I don't need to, and back again, and you can see that mine is called main loop. It's going to make it much easier for me to remember what exactly that pattern or sequence is. So the next thing that I wanted to show you guys is that the sample pool and archive that comes with this device is incredible, and the way that you can navigate it is also really, really nice as well. So interesting fact, there are some of my sounds in this archive, SPVid's drum sounds. Part of the deal of me getting some free gear from Sonicware was I contributed to this. So yeah, when you pick up this device, you can hop in to the sample archive, which is absolutely huge, and you can find some SPVid sounds in there if you wanted to. So I've got an empty track here, track 7. You can see here that there's no sample assigned to this yet, and it's super quick to jump into the sample archive. You just press the A dial, and you can see now we're presented with this search area basically, where we can browse loads of different sounds. And you can go ahead and preview these sounds by moving the D-pad over to the play button. 1. So you can browse through them, listen to all those. That's incredible in itself. But then what I want to draw your attention to is the area below it. Now, it looks a bit confusing at first. There's quite a lot going on. There's all these sort of little buttons with letters on them. But if you look a bit more closely, you can see, for example, the bottom row, BD, SD, HH. Now, bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat, that's what those stand for. So basically, we've got some sort of organization already going on in this huge archive that comes with the device, and these areas here correspond to the buttons at the bottom. So for example, if we wanted to just put on a bass drum onto this track, I could go ahead and press the track 1 button. You can see here that BD on this diagram corresponds to the track 1 button here, so I'll press that, and now the archive has been filtered and we can browse through lots and lots and lots of kicks here. I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of sounds we've got inside this thing when it comes, guys. There's so many uses for all these sounds, and I'm just going to keep going down, and you can see here now we've got 2 SPVids. So some of my sounds are in here, some of my kicks. We can go ahead and preview it. You can go ahead, select that, put it on that track. Say you wanted an FX for your beat, I can just press the FX button, then we can scroll through these. So basically my point with this one, it's crazy that we get this huge archive that we're able to use for our beats, and then secondly, this filtering with these buttons that correspond to the diagrams up at the top here. They're just really useful for filtering and finding exactly what you need. So I really like that area, and yeah, you've definitely got to make use of that. Okay, my last little tip, and this is one which is super useful, especially if you're wanting to extend your sequences and patterns. That's essentially what this tip is. So extending a loop is all well and good, but let's say you extend a loop, it won't copy the information over to the next new area of the loop. So let me go ahead and just show you this. So if we enter configure, you can see here that the length I've got here is 16. Now, if I used dial A and change that, we would get more bars or more measures on the end of this particular sequence and pattern, but it wouldn't copy the information that's already in the first couple of bars that I've made. You'd essentially get some blank bars tacked on the end. So you can also copy the information that's already in the pattern and paste it over to the new measures. And all you have to do in order to do this is when you're changing the A length measure with dial A, you just hold function. That's all you have to do. You hold down function, you turn this dial, and that'll automatically copy all the data that's already in that sequence or pattern and paste it to the end and bolt it on the end. So say for example you'd made a drum loop and then you wanted to double the length of it, all you'd have to do is come into the configure area, hold function, double the length like that to 32, and it would copy that information if you are holding function. If you don't want the information, just don't hold function and you can do that and it won't copy it. So really useful little shortcut, that one. I'm going to be using that a lot, I'm sure, and hopefully that tip and all the others that I've shown you have been useful to you today. So that's it for this one, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really hope that those tips help you if you just pick this device up. I'm going to be sharing loads of content about this device because there's so many different little things to get into. I can't wait to share more and more tips, workflow tips, how to make beats, all that kind of stuff. That's all going to be coming to the channel very soon. Don't forget to check the links out in the description below. I'd really appreciate that. Big shout out to my members, and I will see you all in another video very, very soon.